So the other day, this scrawny kid comes up to me in the gym and says, what machine should I use to get the young, beautiful girls? So I look at him and I say, the ATM machine. That's a funny joke, but there's nothing funny about doing business with a woke pro-abortion company when you could do business with a pro-life Christian company. So if you're buying or selling real estate, go to realestateforlife.org. Now, I want to talk about church growth. Why is the Catholic Church growing? And what brought this to my attention was a comment I had, and I get a lot of the same comments, and they're like almost verbatim. So I kind of figured out they were getting it from somebody, and it turned out to be the usual suspect, this anti-Catholic guy on YouTube, always bashing the Catholic Church, and they're just repeating his words. I'll tell you the comment in a minute and how I responded. But the comment went like this. The church is dying because of your new mass. Look in your parish, and all you'll see is gray hairs. You won't hear any babies crying. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I even commented. I said, every pew in my church has at least 5 crying babies. In my pew, most of them are my grandkids. And so today in Mass, I looked around, and sure enough, every pew there was a crying baby. And this is a church, 6,500 members. And we pack out Mass Saturday at 4, Sunday 8:30, Sunday at 10, and Sunday night at 5. I've been to all the Masses, and they're all packed out, and they're all full of young adults, young kids. In fact, in front of me always sits this young couple. I love them. They're in their 20s. They have a newborn, I think a 3-year-old. He's on fire. He converted from Lutheranism, and he's real on fire for Jesus, and he loves the Catholic Church. And in fact, I think he wants to start his own YouTube channel because he's good in apologetics, really bright kid. Behind me, another young couple. I think they're in their 30s with like 3 kids. He was a former Baptist minister. And I can go on and on with all the people I know in the church. And these are young, on fire Catholic Christians in a new Mass, celebrating Jesus. And they know the faith very well. And they're bringing people in. They're bringing Protestant family members. They're bringing in Protestant friends. And there's actually a young adult class. It's like 18 to 38. And I think my priest made it 38, so he could be a part of it. He's a young, on fire priest, and he leads them. And my son's going. They said they get into really deep Bible study, Catholic tradition. They learn a lot, and like everybody's on fire for the Lord, and it's just growing. I actually had an RCIA leader from our diocese, a different parish over in Orlando, email me, and I called him. And again, this guy was on fire for the Lord. He was a new Mass Catholic, if you want to, label us. But he actually retired early because he was legally blind and just went to school to learn about the faith, got a degree in religion from a good Catholic university. And this guy knew our faith, knew the Bible. And he said he was looking for kind of funny, he said he was looking for speakers for their young adults. And he said, we had a speaker in the church last year who was really good, Trent Horn. I'm like, oh, he's freaking awesome. He goes, yeah, but he costs like $2,000. We can't afford that every year. And I said, well, don't worry about it. I'll pay you to come talk. Seriously. The only thing I ask is you better ask our bishop, or not better, but maybe you could ask our bishop if you could get his staff with the hook. So when you want me off the stage, you just pull me by my neck. Because once I start talking about Jesus, I never shut up. But there's a lot going on all around me. So what I'm saying, it's not just my church. You can say, oh, well, that's a odd thing. Your church is on fire. You have so many young babies and your church is growing. Your parish is growing. No, I see this in a lot of parishes throughout my whole diocese. I've been there like 4 or 5, and I see the same thing. And I meet Catholics from all of them. And I'm hearing the same thing. The Catholic Church is on fire. So I don't know, why you keep listening to the same person who all he does is bash our church. I always say, don't worry about who's right. Worry about what's right. And what I mean by that is look at the truth. What is truth? What is really happening? Because sometimes you trust someone, maybe they got a PhD in philosophy, and all of a sudden you think this guy's a great philosopher and he's so wise and all-knowing, and no matter what he says, you're going to listen and you're going to repeat. And that's what I hear. The same guy repeat it. Oh, the new masses, all gray hairs, no babies. I don't see it. The reality is not there. I don't know what church you're talking about, but you're not talking about my new mass. I'm seeing lives changed by the power of the Holy Spirit, lives changed by the Eucharist, So the facts are this. 1969, I guess that was the beginning of the new mass. There were 650 million Catholics worldwide. In 2020, there were 1.3 billion. It doubled in size in that short amount of time. So the church is growing, it's not dying. Compare that to the Southern Baptists. Southern Baptists from 2010 to 2020 went from 16.3 million members to 14 million members. So the largest Protestant denomination lost 2.3 million members in a 10-year period. And that same 10-year period, we went from 1.2 billion to 1.3 billion. So we were growing and they were declining. And this guy that I'm talking about that's always bashing the Catholic Church, this famous YouTuber, he does what I used to do as a Protestant and what I did in politics and what politicians do. You always put your spin on it. So you give him that fact and he can't deny that fact. And he'll say, well, it's all coming from the third world. Like, there's something wrong with third world Catholics. In fact, I'm glad it's coming from the third world, because the third world is where all the miracles are happening. The third world is where people are on fire for Christ. They're sold out for Christ. Unlike America and Europe, we're so attached to our money and our lives that our faith is so weak compared to these third world Catholics. And we have a pope that's appointed more third world cardinals than any other pope in modern times. So the church is growing in a good direction, in a very faithful direction. So the church is growing. I'm trying to get all these facts. Okay, so I hit you with the numbers. But why? Why is it growing? I looked into that. So what other period of time did the church really see a growth? And when I look back in history, I seen it was like the first 4 centuries, the church grew. And I want to see what was in common. And the one thing we have in common is they said Mass in their native tongue, in their vernacular language. Either Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic were the 3 biggest language. So they mostly said it in the language that people understood. In the same way, in the new Mass, it's spoken in the native tongue. English in America, Spanish in South America, yada, yada, yada. So is this coincidence, or is this designed by the Holy Spirit? When Latin became the language of the world, that was our language in the church. But the Holy Spirit moved upon our bishops in Vatican II, and the heart and the soul and the movement was towards evangelization, the new evangelization. See, the old evangelization, we evangelized pagans. The new evangelization, it was focused on people that heard the gospel, or they were baptized Catholic or baptized, Protestant, and they just turned away from the church. And these are the Christians the new evangelization are going for. They heard the gospel, but they're lukewarm. And has it been fruitful? Well, I was a baptized Catholic. I left the church at 19, became an evangelical for 30 years, and the new evangelization brought me back to the church. Dr. Francis Beckwith was a baptized Catholic, left the church, became the president of the Evangelical Theological Society, and while he was serving his term as president, he came back to the Catholic Church. You have Dr. Scott Hahn, he was a Presbyterian minister. Steve Ray, a Baptist. Keith Nestor was a Methodist minister. I mean, I can go on and on. Peter Crift, These are giants of our day and age. Came back on fire to the Catholic Church through the new Mass. Now, it's not to say the old Mass is inferior or the old Mass is incomplete. They're both valid. They're both complete. And in fact, Keith Nestor would tell you, even though the new Mass brought him in, the first time he went to the old Mass, he fell in love. He said it was love at first sight. And that's where he attends. He's a Latin Mass guy. So I'm not trying to down the Latin Mass. I'm just saying God moved in the new Mass through the Holy Spirit to evangelize. And that's the difference I see. Now, this same guy criticizes the new Mass because of the way we dress, honestly, you may have heard me brag about my Armani suit. That's Salvation Armani. When I bought that suit from the Salvation Army, I was about 30 pounds lighter. So it doesn't fit. I think I gave it away to somebody. So I probably, honestly, don't even own a suit. And they tell me that, I might get looked down upon if I go to Latin Mass. I don't know if that's true. I've never been there, so I don't want to misjudge anybody. But when I hear this gentleman who's always bashing the Catholic Church, he said he was brought in through the new Mass. He'll admit that. But he left because the Eucharistic minister had some t-shirt on and basically thought he was underdressed. And it brought me to today's reading, and I'll paraphrase the gospel. Jesus said, if you're going to throw a banquet, don't invite your wealthy neighbors. Invite the poor. Invite the lame. Invite the crippled. Invite the suffering. Going back to that time of evangelization in the first few centuries, there was a deacon named St. Lawrence. And the Emperor Valerian, I think it was like 258 AD, Emperor Valerian made a decree that all Catholic bishops, priests, and deacons are to be killed immediately, executed immediately. And they executed Pope Sixtus, and they came for his deacon Lawrence, and before they executed him, they said, we want the wealth of the church. So he said, wow, we have so much wealth, can you give me 3 days to gather it? And the emperor was like, wow, yeah, because he was so greedy. He was like, yeah, bring me all that wealth. So he was all happy. Valerian, Lawrence was going to take 3 days to gather all this wealth for him. So all the wealth the church had, Deacon Lawrence gave to the poor. He gave every bit that he could find to the poor, because Jesus said, blessed are the poor. And the churches always knew that the poor were closer to God than the rich. And we are to bless the poor if we want to be blessed. So he went and blessed the poor with everything. Then on the third day, he walked in, and the emperor said, Lawrence, where is the church's riches? And then this history tells us Lawrence opened up the door, and in comes walking in the most ragamuffin crowd, filthy, poor, wearing rags, barefoot and dirty feet, the lame, the blind, the poor, the suffering. And Lawrence said, here are the church's riches, and we are way richer than the emperor. That got the emperor so mad, they actually put Deacon Lawrence on a grill and grilled him. And tradition tells us he shouted out, I'm done, turn me over. I don't know I don't know how accurate that is, but he became the patron saint of cooks and chefs because of that. But Deacon Lawrence became a saint. And I'm glad I go to the Mass that accept the poor, the suffering, the lame, the blind, guys that can't afford a suit. God bless and stay Catholic.